Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another installment of All Things Agroecology. And yeah, it's been an interesting journey so far. On to the third installment, and here we are still talking about agroecology. And in the next video, we shall be talking about agroecology. And then the video after, it will be agroecology. So yeah, it's been amazing so far, and I have done one on an introduction on agroecology. We have discussed something to do with the farmer managed seed systems, and of course we shall continue learning more and more about every other aspect of agroecology that needs to be known. Yeah, we said that we will be talking about all things agroecology, things that affect agroecology, things that are related to agroecology, and things, I don't know, just agroecology. And one of the things I wanted us to talk about today is on the National Agroecology strategies. Yeah. National agroecology strategies that have been put out there, yeah, for all of us, for our consumption, for our knowledge, for our use, right? And for all these reasons, today we will be discussing one that has happened fairly recently, not necessarily an in-depth one, but really we will be delving into an in-depth discussion on the National Agroecological strategy for Kenya. And then just the past few days there was the launch of the County Agroecological strategy for Vihiga County. That's also in Kenya. So the purpose for this video today is to compare the two and see what's in it for everyone within the sector to know about, and just to see the processes, not really the processes, how they marry each other, how one speaks to the other. Yeah, and with time we will get to understand, maybe from that context. It is my hope that we will be having more and more strategies being launched across the 47 counties of Kenya, and of course hoping that they will be speaking to the National Agroecology strategy, yeah, so that you do not have a lot of things scattered all over the place, and then you will be having like a clear direction that this is what we are looking for as a country, and then now to a very local level, this is our contribution to the National Agroecology strategy. Yeah, so because we are looking at agroecology from an African context, of course we will be looking at other countries that do have an agroecology strategy. I keep messing that up. We will be looking at countries that have an agroecology strategy, and we will be looking at them also in depth. So for starters, we will be looking at Kenya, not in depth, but an overview of how it compares to one of the county's agroecology strategies. Yes, I hope I don't butcher that again. Yeah, I understand that Murang'a County has a policy so far. It's also a wait and see to see if they will be having a strategy as well. So in Africa, currently the ones that I know of, whether they do have a strategy or are in the process of developing one, or they are interested in having an agroecology strategy, That's of course the one we are starting with. Kenya, we have Malawi, we have Rwanda, we have South Africa, we have Uganda, we have Tanzania, we have Zambia, and we also have Zimbabwe. So anyone from any of those countries. Of course, for Kenya, we already know, and I do know that Tanzania has an agroecology strategy. So any of those countries that I have mentioned, and there's anything that you need to update us on, whether if it was in the works and it is complete, let us know. But we will also be doing our own research to know whether it's already there and if it's being implemented as we speak, or when it's supposed to start. So for this one, talking about the national and the county agroecology strategies that are there, just having like an overview. This is an overview look at these strategies. Of course, now when you're looking at the scope and the objectives of these strategies, of course, for the country, it's nationwide, and it's supposed to apply for all the counties, all the 47 counties in Kenya. And for the Vihiga County agroecology strategy, it is looking at specific county needs, and the context. So of course, in as much as the national agroecology strategy would be rolling out things en masse, for this one it's contextual. So it would also involve identification of specific, maybe if I use this term for the purpose of understanding, if you're looking at a value chain, for example, specific to that county, then now the county will be pushing issues to do with such areas that are specific to that county. For the national, it will be looking across board. And then of course, now for the national agroecology strategy for food systems in Kenya, the main objective is to transform Kenya's food systems through agroecology to enhance sustainability, resilience, and equity. So for this one, it's also looking at a broader aspect. It's not just about food systems through agroecology, but it's also looking at the sustainability aspect of it. It's looking at resilience. Of course, agroecology speaks a lot about resilience. Resilience speaks to agroecology, and of course equity. When we go along, and even when we're looking at the farmer managed seed systems, you'd realize that women come out very strong within the FMSS or FMSS, where many of them within the African context are the custodians of seed, and they're the ones that sort them, they're the ones that choose the ones that will be going into the next season. They're the ones that determine a lot of things. So for this, when you're looking at equity, for me, I am looking at equity the way that it's being spoken here, in terms of the demographics, in terms of gender, and also in terms of age, right? And then for the county, the policy, the strategy promotes localized sustainable food systems through agroecology while addressing county-specific ecological and socio-economic conditions. Of course, we have been saying that it is looking at the context of the county, and it is localized. So some of the guiding principles we are looking at for the national strategy, that it is anchored on the 13 HLPE agroecology principles, which are integrated with Kenya's legal and policy frameworks. and that of the county aligns with the national global principles, but emphasizes mostly on the local participatory approaches and traditional knowledge. So moving forward, you'll just be hearing localized for the county, but for the national it is very, very wide. Yeah. For the national, as I had mentioned initially, that it is looking at gender equality, youth inclusion, indigenous knowledge, biodiversity, and climate resilience. And for that of the county, we'll be looking at community participation, local innovation, and of course equity in access to resources. And I think for most of the African countries, when we are talking about access to resources, it's a big deal, because for many people, some of these resources, and especially when it comes to credit, it becomes very, very hard for many African communities. So it would be very interesting to see how this pans out. So for the national strategy, it has 5 pillars. 1, enabling environment. It has knowledge and innovation. It has value chains. It has landscape approaches, and it has governance and financing. Those are the core pillars of the national one. And for the county, Vihiga County, it looks at policy alignment, it looks at capacity building, market development, resource management, and institutional frameworks. So maybe just a comment on capacity building. Of course, here, in as much as you'd be looking at how to build the capacity of farmers, but most of the time, the best approach is that these farmers are the ones who are supposed to build the capacity of, let's say, researchers. For example, you're looking at even some actors within the sector, including government. When we were talking about the farmer managed seed systems, we were talking about farmers being the knowledge holders, being the innovators. So information is coming from the farmers. So ideally, we are being capacity built by the farmers. Market development, and especially organic markets, it's really hard, and especially within the Eastern African region, to see organic markets that are well established, known, because it's also known to a few people, not very many. And when you look at it from the perspective of farmers don't even know like organic markets do exist. Most of them do not know. It's their way of life. They just know they eat organic. But out there, it's a very big deal, right? So it's very important, and especially when you're looking at market development, to see how these farmers can be able to access these markets and also earn extra income. Yeah. For the implementation, of course, when it comes to the people who are involved in terms of the stakeholders, you're looking at the national government ministries, research institutions, NGOs, and county governments. So the national government is looking at county governments as the implementers. So you're looking at the 47 counties as stakeholders who are going to implement these agroecology strategies. And then now at the county level, you're looking at the county departments, farmer groups, CBOs, and the local stakeholders within the counties. So as each at the grassroots is working, they're building towards the national. And for me, I think I love the way these strategies are speaking to each other, and it's my hope that when the other counties develop their own strategies, they will also be talking to the national, yeah. And then even now the national would be, if we had an agroecology strategy for the continent, that the national one for Kenya and any other country speaks to the continental, right? I know at the moment we have scattered information about agroecology within the continent, and one of the key documents that is referred to whenever people are talking about agroecology is the Malabo Declaration. But the declaration is not necessarily the strategy. It just highlights things about agriculture, and we go in there to pinpoint where it's speaking to agroecology, right? Yeah. And then in terms of monitoring and evaluation, of course that's straightforward. Each has their own mechanisms. Now, where I am interested, financing and resources. Yeah, for those people who know me, I am really a fundraiser by profession. I mobilize resources. So it's important to see, even with the ambition of having this strategy, how is it going to be funded? It runs from 2024 to 2033. Yeah, to implement it fully, what kind of resources are required? How will we raise those resources? So when you look at this strategy, it's saying that for the national one, that government allocations, development partners, private sector, and climate finance will be the source of funding for this strategy. But then here is where I have a lot of questions. Of course, you won't just be going through the entire document and it's 100% foolproof that it's going to be perfect. But speaking from my point of view, when we refer back to the Malabo Declaration, where it was mentioning that by 2025, which we are on this year, if you're watching this video in 2037, in 2025, just know that in 2025, the Malabo Declaration envisioned that by 2025, 10% of the national budgets of African countries will go towards agriculture. So now, from the 10%, agroecology, find your space in this 10%. Yeah. Kenya is currently in the process of budget making. A new finance bill is being developed. So when you go to the specific areas where it's talking about agriculture, it would be very important to see what allocations are there and what are they going towards, so that we do not just have a document that is there on the shelf, that if anyone asks, we can just pull it and say that for our country, this is what we are looking at. Tumejipanga. We are very what is that even in English? We are prepared. We are prepared. Yeah. So it would be very sad if this document just goes to the shelf. So government allocation, we will be looking at the finance bill and see what is it talking about agriculture. But then again, now when you go towards the budget itself, what allocations are there that would help finance this strategy? Development partners and private sector, of course, these ones are largely the ones who spearhead agroecology. And for this, of course, we have been having issues with, and especially with development aid agencies who change their funding strategies. Is it time for us to be very innovative in how we fund agroecology projects within Africa? Is it time even for us to renegotiate how these things can continue? Yeah, even through those development aid agencies, the foundations, the corporates that fund agroecology activities. Private sector, of course, climate finance, this is another thing. Of course, a lot of people talk about climate finance in terms of let's say those carbon sinks that do exist, and especially the forests that are there. And one of the things that you really have to question about climate finance, yes, it's good to say that you can be compensated for the damage that someone else has done. But then again, the question becomes, because we are pushing for agroecology that will enable us to pull back on the severe effects of climate change. When there is climate financing, there really is this element of polluters having now the leeway to continue polluting. So your efforts become futile. So you try as much as possible to draw down and reduce the harmful effects of climate change, but you remain stagnant, and most of the time you're moving slowly and not really even just you're at par with like the amount that is being polluted is the same amount, like you are breaking even. We have not broken even. We are nowhere near breaking even, as long as these polluters are allowed to continue polluting because they can just pay. Yeah, and I believe there is a lot of money out there for people to pay to continue to do the wrong thing. So for me, I'd really do what I wouldn't have had climate finance as one of the funding sources, but also look at what kind of resources can we be able to utilize that is non-financial. Yeah, because it would be really sad if we peg everything, we put a cost on everything. If you ask me, I would really want to live in a very healthy environment, very fertile soils. So I do not need like a financial motivation for me to want to live in such a place. Yeah, and I think all of us need to be committed in doing so. The focus in resource mobilization focus at the national level. For the county, we are looking at the county budgets, and I think it's also very important for all of us to be participating in those county CIDPs, because now whenever people are meeting to discuss some of these developmental plans, it's very important for us to be very much in the loop and updated. So county budgets, development partners, local public-private partnerships. This is also an aspect that needs to be unpacked. Yeah, it needs to be unpacked for many people to understand. Innovation and knowledge. The research priorities were institutionalize agroecology research and integrate with higher education. We were talking about this the other day with some of my colleagues, where we were saying that a lot of this effort is being done by farmers and development partners and NGOs, CBOs, but really at the education level, I did a bachelor's degree in agriculture, and beyond just a unit on organic farming, there is no much talk about agroecology. Yeah, so it will be very important for it to be integrated within the school curricula. What else needs to be heightened? Of course, with these strategies, a lot of extension services needs to be rolled out. Concerted efforts needs to also be in place, especially from development partners, from government extension services, from volunteers, from all of us, and even from the farmers themselves. Remember when we were talking about the farmer managed seed systems, where the knowledge and dissemination of the same knowledge is coming from the farmers. Also, the farmers needs to be very vigilant in how all of these things are being implemented. And even for the government, I think the government needs to come out with a very clear agricultural strategy, or even just adopt the agroecology strategy. But I know it happens in steps. You may not necessarily go full throttle and all at once on agroecology, but it has to be implemented in different levels until you transition fully to agroecology. And now the government needs to be very, very clear, very strategic, very truthful, so that on the one hand, you're not over promoting conventional farming techniques, farming methods, but really you have a clear plan on how this, of course the plan is in the strategy, so it would be very interesting to see what 2025 holds in terms of this agroecology strategy for Kenya. Yeah, so I think in a different video we will be looking at now the National Agroecology Strategy for Kenya. We will be looking at those other countries that I had mentioned initially. If there's any other one, we will find out and try and unpack it. Yeah, so for now, I think that's it for this for this installment of All Things Agroecology. See you in the next one.